Get ready.
They say they need to ban the podcast equipment and take y'all mics away. And oftentimes when I listen, shit, I agree.
For real talk.
Hey, man, just because we know people don't mean that they know things. A lot of us was in the same classes with some of these folks. That don't mean they were passing these classes.
All the time.
It ain't the world leaving you behind, man. It's your line of thinking. You think the science stopped evolving because you stopped learning, and it don't work that way. I couldn't imagine voting for somebody who thinks identifying with me is identifying with a felon. That's crazy as hell. I'm Mrs. Spann, and I'm approving these messages. This is the Mrs. Spann Official Podcast. Let's go. Yo, what's going on, everybody? Welcome to the Mr. Spann Official Podcast. I'm your host, Mr. Spann. This is episode number 85 of the show. And yeah, man, we are here midweek and shit, man. It's been, I think it's only been like maybe 3 or 4 days since the last time I talked to you guys, man. And of course, you know, with the way that the world is going right now, man, it seems like there's always a ton of shit happening, especially a ton of shit happening politically and whatnot. And, you know, and sometimes it mixed with the pop culture and everything else. And, you know, I don't want to wait too long before I say anything on some of these cases. You know, some of these I got some very strong, you know, some very strong thoughts about and everything else. But I just felt like, yeah, it's probably time for me to just go ahead and get on the mic, man. And not only that, it was like a conglomeration, not even a conglomeration. What's the word that I'm looking for here? A confluence, I think, of things that have been happening, especially in regards to pop culture and pop culture mixing with the politics and how we talk about it and how we're supposed to think about it. And one of the things that like really precipitated this particular episode was a comment that I got from one of the videos from last week about my critique of Stephen A. Smith and his going at one Jasmine Crockett of the 30th Congressional District out of Texas, and how he, for whatever reason, seemingly has all the smoke for her and the way that she carries herself and her decorum, but none of the smoke for Donald Trump, the way he carries himself and those who surround themselves around Donald Trump. He seemed to come after the sister pretty hard. And so that person was responding to a comment that I made, but then Stephen A. Smith continues to go and starts talking about, starts talking about this, the backlash that he got about it. And so one of the things that he said actually mirrored something that was left in the comment section on one of the videos. So we're going to talk about that. That's going to be some listener feedback, but also that's going to, like, I'm going to fold that into a fucking history lesson, because I see him repeating this, and I saw the person who was responding to one of my videos repeating this exact same question. We're going to get to why black people vote for Democrats, by and large. We're going to go into the history of how that became a thing, because it didn't just happen organically. It wasn't as if black people just suddenly decided, hey, you know what, this is the team we own, and this is all we're going to do. Right. So we're going to discuss the history and all of that. Right. But of course, before we do all of that, because there's some other stories we're going to cover too. But of course, before we do all of that, I do have to remind you guys how to get in touch with your man Spann over here at the Mr. Spann Official Podcast. Let your voice be heard. You can go ahead and hit up that hotline at area code 313-288-0485. That's area code 313-288-0485. Leave those voicemail messages. Of course, those messages will get played here live on the show and responded to in kind. You can also email us here at thespannpodcast@gmail.com. That's thespannpodcast@gmail.com. Go ahead, leave me those emails, and of course, those emails will get right here and reply to here live on the show as well. Follow me on Threads and Instagram. My name on both of those platforms is Mr._Spann. So go ahead, follow me there. Chop it up with your man Spann throughout the week. And also go to our YouTube channel, man. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. Like the videos over there. Comment over there, man. We really do appreciate everybody who does that. Hey, not only that, man, listen. We just got 3,000 subscribers to that channel, y'all. Yeah. Yeah, I think our current number sits at 3,008 subscribers over at the Spann Report Podcast Network channel, man. So we appreciate everybody who subscribed to the channel, man. Watch the videos, like the videos, man. Comment on the video so the algorithm catches it and sends it to other folks, man. That helps a lot, man. You guys really don't understand how much that helps to spread the word about what we're doing over here. So we really appreciate everybody who does that, especially those of you who subscribe. You new subscribers, I appreciate you being here, real talk. Also, leave us a 5-star review on iTunes and or Spotify. Those 5-star reviews are the ones ones that get right here live on the show. We really do appreciate you guys for doing that. That also doesn't cost you a dime, just a couple minutes of your time to let everybody know why you're rocking with us over here at the Mr. Spann Official Podcast and the Spann Report Podcast Network in its entirety, man. And yeah, man, that's it. We got the business out of the way. Now, like I said, like the history lesson, we're going to get into the history lesson. We're not going to dive right into that, though. We're not going to dive right into that because we got, like I said, some stuff. We got some stuff that happened during the week, and we're going to talk about some of this stuff that happened during the week. So we're going to get into that. My man, Motor City Adam is in the chat. What's happening, player? Glad to see you here, man. He says, good evening, Mr. Spann. But I appreciate you being here, man. Real talk. But yeah, we're gonna get into some of the stuff that's happened outside of the history lesson that we're gonna be giving tonight, okay? And one of the things that that's been going on, man, we talked a bit about this. I want to say the last time I was on the mic, we talked a little bit about this with Blexit and the Turning Point USA, and them deciding that they wanted to go to HBCUs during homecoming season to start up debates with people while they were going to these black colleges and universities. And this is after the wake of Charlie Kirk being unalived at this white college in Utah. But the Blexit folks decided they wanted to try to take this shit to the HBCUs, and you know what? I'm surprised we haven't been inundated with videos of them at these black events and arguing with folks. But here's the greatest thing. Candace Owens has just canceled her appearance at FAMU. Yeah, man. So we get the story here. This comes out of HBCUBuzz.com. It says Candace Owens cancels FAMU appearance as other HBCU tour stops fall through. Okay. Of course, you guys know my alma mater, Tennessee State University's homecoming was just this past weekend. Our football team won. We beat Howard. I think it was 24-7 or some shit like that. It was a beatdown. No, but shout out to the Howard alum, man. Shout out to the Howard alum that showed up and participated in those homecoming activities. I couldn't be there, man, but like shout out to y'all who had the chance to be there. But yeah, Candace Owens and them, I guess they didn't show. They ain't showing up at FAMU nowhere. So we gonna read the story. It says the conservative commentator Candace Owens has canceled her scheduled appearance at Florida A&M during the Blexit Educate the Liberate campus tour, sparking debate across social media and HBCU circles. The cancellation, originally planned for October 17th during FAMU's Eternal World Tour homecoming celebration, came abruptly with no clear reason from organizers. Now reports suggest that several other planned HBCU tour stops have been quietly scrapped or postponed, casting doubt on the broader impact of Owens' campus outreach efforts. According to Black Enterprise, Owens' FAMU visit was part of her Blexit Foundation Tour, an initiative founded in 2018 that aims to promote conservative values and independent thinking among Black Americans. Here's the other part. They always say it's independent thinking. It's not independent thinking. It's just different thinking. Because you in the same group. So if you're with this other group, it's not that y'all thinking independently. It's just you thinking differently. It's always grinded my gears. And they always call that bullshit independent thinking. The tour was slated to make multiple HBCU stops, including Jackson State, Tennessee State, North Carolina Central, Howard, and Hampton, but the FAMU cancellation became the first to draw national attention. A Blexit spokesperson confirmed that the FAMU event had been removed from the organization's calendar, stating that a new date will be announced soon. It won't be. As a publication, the new date has not materialized, and neither have other campus stops. FAMU's homecoming, one of the most vibrant cultural events in HBCU tradition, has long symbolized community pride and connection. The idea of a politically charged tour stop during homecoming week immediately stirred discussion among students and alumni. While some felt Owens' message could have offered a chance for open dialogue, others argued that the timing clashed with the spirit of celebration and togetherness that defines FAMU's homecoming. Social media responses reflected the divide. Homecoming is for the culture, not for political PR. One user wrote on X. Others countered that canceling the event signaled missed opportunities for students to challenge ideas in a constructive form. Let's see. FAMU isn't the only school seeing changes. According to coverage from other outlets, including Baller Alert and HBCU Sports, other scheduled Blexit appearances have also been delayed or removed from our public tour lineup. The previously announced stops at Jackson State, Tennessee State, North Carolina, Howard, and University appear to have been shelved without official announcements. So they didn't come. Them motherfuckers did all that talk about coming during homecoming week and everything else. The reason why we were not inundated with those videos all on social media, because trust and believe they were going to use that shit for content farming. The reason why is because they asses didn't come. And ultimately, I think if they had come, they were not going to be met well. They weren't going to be met well, for one. They weren't going to be welcome. And then for two, I honestly think that most people would have just ignored them because they knew they were coming and they knew what it was. So yeah, man, the fact that we don't have any videos of like these Brexit motherfuckers showing up and trying to bait college students during homecoming week at a time for celebration and the culture and just be, it's like a big ass family reunion for your school, bro. Like, yeah, I'm glad that they didn't show up. I'm really glad that they didn't show up. But at the same time, I really do believe that had they shown up, they wouldn't have been received well, and they probably would have been ignored. And I think that because of the way in which they were trying to get people to show up to these events, we're like, hey, we'll, register with us, and then we'll reach out to you, and then you can come out. And it was like people like, nah, it's too many steps to this shit, nigga. I thought y'all just wanted to talk. You know what I'm saying? I thought y'all niggas just wanted to talk. Nah, it's too many steps to this. I'm out. I'm cool on y'all. So yeah, man, the Brexit homecoming tour turned out to be a goddamn dud, man. Turned out to be a dud. You hate to see it. You hate to see it, man. Real talk. But we got that going on. Another story that we got going on, man. So this story has been going viral on all across social media, man. I saw this on Facebook and then I saw it on Threads. Detroit area pastor Marvin Winans, who's his family is like gospel royalty and everything else. There was a video clip of him going viral of him receiving donations from the congregation. With large amounts of money being shared with the church. Just so happened one sister got up and she gave the monies that, wasn't allocated, or better yet, was not in the denomination that it appeared pastor wanted the denomination to be in, okay? And so this is how I became familiar with this story. I saw it on Threads. Let me go ahead and pull this story up so you guys can watch right along with your man Spann. Hold on a second here while hey man, where's my... I got too much going on over here. All right. I got too much going on. All right, here we go. But let me share this with you guys so you guys can watch right along with your man Spann. Pull that up. And let's see what Pastor talking about. Let me unmute that.
And stand in unity with the vision of Perfecting Church of sowing this seed of $1,000. I, Roberta McCoy, giving faith and stand in unity with the vision of Perfecting Church of sowing this seed of $1,000 plus $235 and receiving the blessings to come to all that participated.
Now that's only $1,200.
Yes.
Y'all not listening to what I'm saying. If you have 1,000 plus 1,000.
Okay. Well, I'm gonna work on the other 800.
Well, that ain't what I asked you to do.
I, Roberta McCoy.
All right, so that's what got everybody up in a tizzy. Okay, let's watch that part again now. Hold on.
$1,200.
Yes.
Here we go.
Only $1,200. Now that's only $1,200.
Yes.
Y'all not listening to what I'm saying. If you have 1,000 plus 1,000.
Okay. Well, I'm gonna work on the other 800.
Well, that ain't what I asked you to do.
All right, so that ain't what I asked you to do. As much as like, if I wanted to, instead of the prayer hands, it sounded like Pastor wanted to lay the pimp hand down, right? Now, many people took offense to this, to the way in which Pastor, addressed this sister, right? Like, yo, man, like you dressing this woman down for $1,200, $1,235, whatever amount it was that this sister decided she wanted to give, he's dressing her down. And like, so folks were upset at this. Hold on, why does this thing just keep, let's cancel. I don't want to do that. Okay. But yeah, so they were talking about how he was addressing his sister, and a lot of folks took offense. I know I took offense when I first seen this. I'm like, yo, man, had that been my mother or my grandmother, something like that, Pastor would have to see me. Like, you're not about to shame my mama or my grandma or my aunt or whatever when she comes to the church and gives you $1,200 in this economy, nigga. In this economy, with people losing their jobs, 300,000 black women have lost their jobs this year. Here this woman is coming to you to the church, donating $1,200, and you like, but this just $1,200. Nigga, that ain't gonna fly right to nobody. I don't give a fuck. And so, like, here's the thing, right? You got people, like I said, this is local. So, some folk, I may come into contact with some of these people who may go to this church. I've been on social media when I folks posted on social media, like, yo, Pastor would have to see me after if he said some shit like that to somebody I'm related to. he was like, well, his members are saying that it's all right, this, that, and the other. And you got to understand something, man. I get, in a certain sense, people were like, well, the members of his church know what is to be expected and everything else. And this is, part of the reason why they go. And, all these things, right? I'll say this. There's a thing about being a part of there's a thing that a lot of folks have with being there's this, what we call it. There's the attraction to be around, powerful people or presumably powerful people, right? The proximity to access to power is what I think, turns a lot of people on, right? And this is why you have so many people sycophanting themselves out to Donald Trump. This is why you have, certain people who will, if they can get access to these people, like these celebrities and these pastors and whatever else, it's like, I'm a part of this end club, right? There's a status with being associated with this person. And so because I go to this church and I can say that my pastor is a Grammy Award winner, I can say that my pastor is gospel royalty, and I go to his church, there's a bit of prestige that I think some people take in that, right? So you got that going on, but also us being on the outside looking in, all of this shit be looking forward to the, to the people who ain't, regular members. This might be some shit that go on all the time, right? All the time going on in the church. I think it was interesting that because this video went viral, that both Pastor Marvin Winans and this woman who gave the $1,200 went on the news here in Detroit to clarify what the fuck happened during this exchange. So I'm going to pull this story up so you guys can see right along with your man Spann what he had to say and what she had to say about this event going viral. So let me go ahead and pull this up so you guys can see right along with me. Let me do this here. And all right, let's do that. And all right, let's see what Bishop had to say.
Mary Sheffield is a fighter for you. Mary Sheffield is all.
Let's not do that. We are not doing that on this channel. No, we are not. Okay. No, we are not. So let me go ahead and let that ad play through before we turn the sound back on, because no, we will not be doing that. They got me fucked up. All right, let's see what's well, the ad's still playing. Ain't that some shit? Okay, here we go.
But first, we need to clear up a major misunderstanding that's gone viral on social media.
On Sunday, Pastor Marvin Winans hosted a day of giving. Members of Perfecting Church were asked to donate $1,000 and raise another $1,000 to help finish the new sanctuary in Detroit and support their community programs. Pastor Winans asked those giving $2,000 or more to come to the front of the church first, with others following, from the largest donors to those donating as little as $1.62. But one.
Here's the thing that all right. Here's the thing that I don't like. Okay. This is you basically highlighting those who gave more than those who gave less, right? When it should be, hey man, give what you can give. Put your offering in the collection plate for this particular thing that we got going on. No one is exalted above anyone else in the church, right? But that's not what you're doing. You're setting up a hierarchy of your congregation based upon how much money they done gave. So even though she may have been in the wrong line, right? Even though she may have been in the wrong line, that's still kind of fucked up, right? Hey, yeah, I ain't got $2,000 right now to give you, but nigga, I gave you $1,200, and you trying to make me look like a fool in front of all these people. And y'all live streaming this, so guess what? Thousands of people are watching this shit, and then suddenly it goes viral. Now, millions of people have probably seen this, but this is all about them. Like, this would not have happened if he didn't set up a hierarchy of, hey, if you're giving $2,000 or more, come on, walk on up to the pastor. If you're giving $1,500 or more, walk on up. And so now it becomes a hierarchy of the people who are giving in this economy. That was strange, man. That's strange to me.
Member Roberta McCoy went viral after someone posted video of her coming to the front with less than $2,000, claiming she was rebuked by Pastor Winans. I spoke exclusively with both Pastor Winans and Roberta McCoy, who says she's been attacked online since that video began spreading. You're the woman in that viral video.
Right.
He did not rebuke you.
He absolutely did not rebuke me. Now, there's a difference. There was a correction, because let me clearly state that Pastor gave instruction on the lines to get into.
I was calling because the whole church was giving.
Man, this sounds like some pimp shit, bruh. This sounds like some pimp shit. Daddy gave me instruction. I just didn't follow instruction. This sounds like some pimp shit.
And it was our day of giving, and the whole church was coming, and we didn't want people standing, the mothers and all that, so I was calling them by increments.
You didn't want the mothers standing and whatnot. You were calling them by increments, or what you could have did, like church used to do when I was going to church all the time when I was a kid and I was junior deacon and everything else. You pass that damn collection plate around. Mama ain't got to stand up at all. Mother ain't got to stand up at all. She sits in her chair. She takes her envelope out and she writes on the envelope how much she giving. She put her check or her cash in that envelope and she puts that in the damn basket, and there you go. You ain't got to have mother standing up for nothing. What are we doing?
And we had someone that had given out of before, and I corrected it, and I told everybody to listen and come when you call, and that's all that was.
Roberta told me Pastor Winans personally apologized to her. She's been a member of Perfecting Church since 2013 and has given faithfully over the years and will continue to do so.
Yeah, that don't sit right with me, bro. Even that explanation sounds like some bullshit to me. Like, real talk. I know, like, she's cool with it and she wants to continue to give the church money and everything else, but honestly, man, that just sounded like some pimp shit. Daddy told me I was wrong, and I'm gonna just go out here and I'm gonna get daddy some more money. That's what that sounds like to me. To me, I ain't saying for nobody else. That's what that shit sounds like to me. Because there's no way in hell some dude gonna roll up and tell my mama after she gave $1,200 motherfucking dollars, and you talking about this just $1,200. Like, nigga, what? Nigga, what? Like, he gonna have to see me, bro. Hey, man, nah, man, he gonna have to see me. That's not happening, man. That's not happening. So, yeah, man, we got that going on. My man Collapses is in the chat, and he says that did the congregation have to say the amount out loud while giving the donation? So apparently the way that they explained it was that he said that if you're giving a certain amount to come up to the altar, okay? And so he was the one putting out the increments. If you're giving $2,000 or more, excuse me, if you're giving $2,000 or more, or if you're giving, X amount of dollars, come up to the altar. But again, like I said, that's setting up a hierarchy amongst the congregation, when if you didn't want the mothers standing in line all day long trying to get their money, then just send the goddamn ushers into the pews with the baskets so they can collect. And you don't even have to do all of that. You know what I'm saying? That's why I'm saying the explanation sounds like some bullshit to me. And then he also says, Pastor looking like Daddy Rich from Carwater. Hey, man. And that's the other part, man. Like, the Winans, again, they are gospel royalty, man. World-renowned gospel singers, Marvin Winans, like the Winans family, they world-renowned for the music, BB and CC, you know what I'm saying? For a long time, I thought they was fucking husband and wife. I didn't know they were brother and sister, you know what I'm saying? But they was touring, and I don't know if they still tour or whatever else, but I remember growing up, y'all remember back in the day, man, when Time Life used to have those albums and shit, and they had like the blues collection, and then they had like the R&B collection, and then they had the gospel collection. You couldn't get the gospel collection without the Winans. They was part of the commercial. You know what I'm saying? That's part of my fucking childhood. You know what I'm saying? So like to grow up and like find out, like, hey man, Marvin Winans might be a piece of shit for the way he do the church thing. Like, damn, man, damn. So yeah, man, that's crazy. Collapses also says she shouldn't have brought her up there with less than pastor script. Hey, because he straight up said this only $1,200. He really said that shit in front of the whole fuck. This only $1,200. Like, that was wild, bro. That was fucking wild. But man, yeah, we got that going on. So we got some clarification for those who saw the story. It was like, yo, what's the fuck happened and everything else. They have said from their own mouths, both of the people involved in that particular incident have talked about it. And so we can move on from that shit, man. So yes, we have that going on. Now, another thing we got going on, this is actually some pretty good news, man. Joe Biden is now cancer-free, y'all. So let me make sure I make this this clarification. He has completed his radiation treatment for the cancer that he was suffering from. I believe Joe Biden is battling prostate cancer, and so the former president, age 82, was surrounded by family as he celebrated the end of his cancer treatment. We get the story here from People magazine. It says that Joe Biden celebrated the completion of his radiation treatments for cancer this week and was surrounded by family as he rang the bell. The former president's daughter, Ashley Biden, shared the special moment on her Instagram stories. Dressed sharply in a blue suit and tie, Biden, 82, is seen ringing the bell as doctors applauded. Ring the bell, thank you to the incredible doctors, nurses, and staff at Penn Medicine. Ashley captioned the clip, "We are so grateful." She also shared a photo of her dad posing with one of his doctors, as well as a family photo where the president smiles alongside his wife, Jill Biden, and two of his grandchildren, Natalie and Robert Hunter Biden II, the children of Biden's late son, Beau. Dad has been so damn brave throughout his treatment. Grateful, Ashley captioned the pic. And so I guess I could share some of these pictures along with y'all, man. Let me go ahead and pull this up so y'all can see what the fuck I'm looking at. And let's see, man. Yeah, so here's Biden ringing the bell after his cancer treatments were deemed successful. And here are the pictures of him with his family and whatnot. So yeah, man, little bright news, little bright news in a time where we're dealing with so much bullshit. A little good news that can never hurt. You know what I mean? So prayers to the Biden, to the Bidens, man. Real talk. That's what's up. We got that going on. But okay. This story here though, before we get to the shit, this story here hit home with your boy. For those of you who have been listening to me via who go back with me to the Spann report, right? Who go back with me from the Spann report. I was arrested in the city of Chicago back in 2011 for the unlawful possession of a firearm, okay? I did a podcast episode back when this was the Spann report. It was, I believe, episode 11. And it was called, "Is There a Problem, Officer?" And what happened was I was arrested for that gun in Chicago. Gun wasn't in my possession at all at the time I had my encounter with the police. But I was, I'm licensed to carry a concealed firearm here in the state of Michigan. At the time, I was not carrying my pistol, but you know what? I'm gonna just let this. I'm gonna let the story. I'm gonna play this story, and then I'm gonna kind of tell my story on the back end of it. Okay, that's how we gonna do that. But I'm gonna let this go ahead and do this thing, and then I'm gonna tell my story on the back end of it. That's how we gonna do that. But yeah, apparently black gun owners are finding out their rights are being violated in the city of Chicago because despite trying to do things the right way, they're still finding themselves being charged with felonies for carrying guns that they've already applied to the state and have been given permission by the state to carry concealed within the city of Chicago, man. All right, so we get this story here. This comes from CBS News. And I'm gonna pull this story up so you guys can watch right along with your man Spann. Yeah, man. This is a yeah. How long is this video? It's about 9 minutes. I don't know if we're gonna play the entire 9 minutes, but yeah, we're gonna talk about this because the fact that this is still happening, despite the fact that Chicago now has concealed carry. Yeah, it's fucked up. So I'm gonna go ahead and pull this up so you guys can watch right along with your man Spann. Check this out, y'all.
Constitutional right to carry a gun in the state of Illinois if you have the proper licenses. But some black gun owners say their rights are being violated. CBS News Chicago investigator Dorothy Tucker uncovered several cases where they were stopped by police and charged with felonies despite having everything in order, leaving them to pick up the pieces of their lives.
We did something that's never been done before, watermelon cheesecake.
A cheesecake tasting in the south suburbs. Louis McWilliams' dream is to grow his business.
And it's gonna blow you away.
I like it.
All was good.
Oh my God, it's so good. I told you. This is like a Jolly Ranch.
Until this.
Right now, Mr. McWilliams.
entrepreneur. I have a cheesecake company called Ann's Flavored Cheesecakes.
At the time of this interview, Lewis faced a felony charge.
This has been very traumatic for me. I feel like my rights was violated.
His Second Amendment rights. Lewis is an avid gun owner.
Just got me the AR top, one in the middle.
In April, Lewis was pulled over on the south side, West 79th Street. He had a missing front plate.
Hey, yes, sir. How you doing, boss? Good, good.
The first thing he did, tell the officers
hold on a second.
he had a gun.
Hold on a second.
Okay, where's your firearm?
The first thing he did,
Notice his hands were already out of the car. Okay, this is something that I practice when I am when I'm carrying my firearm and I'm approached by police. The first thing I do, I put my hands outside of the car, because I know, as a concealed carry licensee, that when the police officers run my plate, they already know that I am licensed to carry a concealed firearm. So to put those motherfuckers at ease, always put my hands outside of the car. Okay, I'm not saying that you have to do that, but to avoid some bullshit, that's definitely what I do. Okay, so notice that he already had his hands outside of the car.
The officers he had a gun.
Okay, where's your firearm? On my side. Okay, you got your concealed carry license?
According to state law, in order
also is good practice, if you do have your firearm in the car with you, to declare that you do have your firearm in the car with you. If you're pulled over by the police and you got a gun in the car with you, even though you got license and you know that they know that you got license, still declare that your gun is in the car. Let them know off top, because that could be a problem later if you don't say nothing. Always let them know. Put your hands out the window and let them know the gun is in the car and where the gun is in the car, where the gun is at in the car when they ask.
In order to carry a legal gun in your car, you need a firearms license, better known as a FOID card, and a concealed and carry license, commonly called a CCL. This is Lewis's card, and it's valid. That's what he handed the officers.
He looks at him. He said, okay, cool, this is perfect.
Only it wasn't.
Concealed carry, it didn't pop up. Oh.
It didn't pop up on Leeds, the database operated by the Illinois State Police. Police recommended Lewis be charged with 2 felonies.
Right now, Mr. McGood, because we can't verify your concealed carry.
And look here, prosecutors approved the charges.
He never should have been charged.
Irv Miller is a former prosecutor, once in charge of reviewing police cases.
He showed them a valid CCL card. Not only did they see it, they actually took possession of it and inventoried it.
I haven't got the
It's right.
Which is some bullshit. They see that he had the license. He gave them the license. They inventoried the license. And because their systems hadn't updated, he's facing a felony because they haven't updated their systems. That's some bullshit, bruh.
There, in CPD's inventory sheet. So why was Lewis arrested? That's a question we wanted to ask Superintendent Larry Snelling, but he declined an interview.
Of course he declined the interview, and I'm going to tell you exactly why he declined the interview. I believe the Chicago police have a practice of arresting people who even are trying to obtain, who are trying to do things the right way. If they can get you to pay fines, or if they can get you to plead guilty, which is what they tried to get me to do, try to get you to plead guilty so that you can just get away from this shit, then they can also keep you from having a firearm legally, right? And so I think this is a concerted effort by the Chicago police, and it's been for a long time, man. They had a handgun ban in the city of Chicago for a long time after the killing of Ben Wilson. Ben Wilson, who was the basketball phenom out of Simeon High School, who many thought would have been an NBA All-Star, All-Pro, all-time great. My aunt went to school with Ben Wilson. She was at school when Ben Wilson was killed, right? Many of the black basketball players who come out of Simeon now wearing the number 25 in honor of Ben Wilson. You've seen Derrick Rose wear number 25. You've seen Ben Simmons, not Ben Simmons, what's my man's name? Shit, my man that went to DePaul. Fuck. But they wear number 25 in honor of Ben Simmons. But his mom got the city to enact an ordinance to ban handguns in the city, right? And from then on, man, there's been this concerted effort to take guns out of the hands of citizens in the city. And so I think that mantra is still in play, but they can also monetize it and also keep people from having firearms. Even the people who are trying to do the shit the right way, they will go about trying to do that, trying to effectuate you not being able to carry a firearm.
Reached out to state police because anytime an officer pulls over a driver who has a gun, the first thing they do is check the state's database to see if that driver has a valid FOID and CCL.
Oh, okay.
So here's the question we asked the state. If a driver like Lewis actually hands the police a valid CCL, but the officers don't see the information in the state's database, what should they do? The state replied, the officers should not take any law enforcement action as it relates to a potential FOID CCL violation. That's what Lewis expected, and what he was told later as he stood in a jail cell.
And if this comes back clean,
yeah, then they just let you go, apologize, and let you go about your day.
That's not what happened. Lewis spent 24 traumatic hours behind bars.
It was just deplorable. There were roaches falling from the ceiling.
all of this because of illegal everything.
Yeah, I can't tell you why.
I need somebody to tell me, man.
Worse than the jail conditions? A missed business opportunity.
That day, I had a meeting. Could not do the meeting that day because I was arrested. By losing that, I might have lost the franchise.
Yeah.
Lewis also lost time, lots of it. He was in and out of court fighting to get the charges dismissed.
That also rings true and rings familiar. I remember when I was going through my case with the city of Chicago, I was having to come back and forth to the city of Chicago from Detroit. I had about maybe 3 or 4 different court dates that I had to attend over the course of 6 months. And I made every court date. And, you know, the thing that that pissed the judge off, because eventually my case was thrown out. Eventually my case got thrown out. One of the things that the judge on my case thought was odd was the fact that they allowed me to continue to fly, to come back and forth to Detroit and Chicago. They were like, well, if you really, he was like, well, if y'all really thought this man was a problem or a risk, why would you allow for him to go back home to Detroit? And I am I'm a regular Joe, you know what I'm saying? I got a license. They knew I had a license. And so for those of you who may be not familiar with the story, I was on the south side of Chicago. I was on Cottage Grove. I want to say probably around 75th and Cottage Grove when I was pulled over by Chicago police, who said that I did not signal while changing lanes. Right. So they pulled me over. I pulled right over. And once they pulled me over, bro, it was already 2 squad cars and 5 cops surrounding my fucking car. Right. They pulled me out of my car. They started searching my shit. Right. And they find a spare magazine. I always kept a spare mag in my center console. And they was like, yo, so where's the gun at? And I'm like, it's in my luggage, because although I was licensed to carry a concealed weapon in Michigan, I have my Michigan license is honored by, I want to say about maybe 36 states. I also understood that my license wasn't honored in Illinois. So I wasn't carrying. I left my gun in my luggage at my grandma's house, and foolishly trying to be cooperative with these cops to let them know I'm not a problem, I told them that my gun was in my luggage at my grandma's house. So these motherfuckers went to my grandma's house, and Granny, not knowing that she does not have to let them in, that she does, my grandma, she's about the compliance. She don't want no problems with the police. So the police come in the house, they ask where my luggage was, they find my pistol in my luggage, and then they come back and they arrest me. They arrest me after they find the gun where I told them the gun was, because again, this is not where the gun ain't nowhere near the traffic stop. We about 6 miles away from where the traffic stop was. Okay? They arrest me, and then when I get before the judge, they say they found my gun and an extra bag of ammunition in the car with me. This is what they said before a fucking judge in Cook County, man. And so, like I said, it took me about 6 months fighting that case for them, for the judge to finally throw it out. He's like, yo, this man is licensed in the state that he's from. He's a blue collar worker. You allowed for him to come back and forth to the city of Chicago. He's never missed a court date. You're wasting the court's time, right? So he dismissed the case. However, I would still have to pay for my record to be expunged, and I would have to sue the city of Chicago to retrieve my property, which was the Glock 27 that they took from me that day, right? And rather than do all of that, I just said, well, fuck it, I'll just buy another gun. I never bought another Glock again, right? But that's what happened in my case. So this is why this shit rings so fucking familiar for me.
And his impounded car returned.
I know this is a system, so just hoping for the best results.
It wasn't until mid-June, 3 months after he was stopped, that the case was finally dismissed.
I'm very excited for him, but this is not the end.
Next step, more money spent to expunge the case.
Yep.
So his arrest won't show up in a background check.
Yep.
And all of this for somebody who did nothing wrong?
Correct.
Your joy is a little bit...
Dampered, yes. Totally dampered, because now this is a much longer process.
It's nearly impossible to know how many drivers like Lewis are wrongly charged with unlawful gun possession that are later dismissed. Neither the CPD or the Cook County State's Attorney's Office track it.
Because we got to confirm whether it's actually valid or not.
We did find a handful of lawsuits accusing police of violating the rights of legal gun owners.
Also, here's the other part. Right? Check this out, y'all. I was a member of the NRA at the time. I was a member of the NRA. And I'm like thinking, yo, the NRA Defense Fund or whatever, they gonna help me fight these motherfuckers down in Chicago? And I'll be goddamn, nigga. No, they did not.
Be a monkey's bare-assed uncle.
They did not. They did not help me with a motherfucking thing. Y'all know how I got my lawyer? My lawyer just so happened to be a very good friend of a former teacher of mine. One of the things I'm always grateful for is that my high school in Chicago, we formed a lot of familial bonds there, right? And my mentor, Mr. J. Roy Jones, God rest his soul, man. I went up to the school, man, and I was telling him about my situation. And I would always just kind of, every time I would come home to Chicago, man, if I had time and I knew if they were going to be, the school was going to be open, I would head up to the school, man, and I would talk to my people up there. My girl, Miss Shalise, is the principal at my high school right now. I graduated with this girl, and now she's the principal of our fucking high school. That's dope. That's fucking dope. But we would always go up there, and I would talk to my peeps up there, and I was telling Mr. Jones about my situation. He said, I got somebody for you. And that's how I got my fucking lawyer. The NRA didn't help me with shit. But they kept sending me stuff in the mail asking for money, though. Even after I got out of the NRA, even after I moved from the previous address I had, the NRA was still sending me mailers asking for money? Yeah, man. So, fuck the NRA, bro. Straight up. And then after that, what happened with Philando Castile, it's been fuck the NRA ever since then. For real, for real. And anybody associated with them bitches, Coleon Noir. So we got that going on, man. But the fact that he's going through this, there's an additional story of his sister. I'm gonna leave the link to this video in the show notes so you guys can watch this in its entirety. But it just highlighted, it brought back a memory from some shit that happened to me 14 years ago. The fact that the city of Chicago is still doing this shit bothers me, bruh. The fact that even after they have instituted some level of the handgun ban in Chicago has been deemed unconstitutional. They have a right to carry concealed in Chicago. I haven't applied for a right for the concealed carry license because of that arrest. I know that arrest is gonna come up when I apply. And so those application fees are non-refundable. So if they say no, nigga, I'm just out of my money. Right? So I don't even want to bother applying for the license there because I know it's gonna be some bullshit. Right? But yeah, man, I hate that brother's going through this. The fact that there are still people going through this in the city of Chicago, it's sad, man. It's sad. But we got a few comments here. My man Peanut says watermelon cheesecake. I might need to try that. Hey, nigga, watermelon and cheesecake sounds like a winning motherfucking combination to me too, bro. You ain't alone on that one. Collapses says, living in Texas, we're damn near lawless when it comes to carrying firearms. I mean, I think y'all basically got some shit like constitutional carrying in Texas. I don't even think do y'all even have to carry? Do y'all need a license to carry concealed in Texas? I believe that y'all just like can carry however the fuck you want, whenever the fuck you want. I don't even think y'all have licensing for that type of shit in Texas. Let me know, man. Let me know, because I try to stay up on the gun laws because, you know, when I travel, I want to know where and when I can carry my shit. So yeah, man, let me know if I'm on par with that, if I'm right on that. It says Collapses also says the city should have cut you a check. That's a bad arrest. Hey, that's the thing though. Now I got to come out of money for a lawyer to sue the city for not only that, but all like that's cash out of my pocket. Now at the time, I wasn't working. I work for the same company, but I wasn't in the same job that I am in now. I couldn't afford that, bro. I couldn't afford that. So it becomes the things like just cutting your losses, man. Like, hey, yeah, so y'all got a $700 Glock 27. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, I'll just go buy another gun. You know what I mean? And I'm trying to be done with this shit. I'm trying to get back home so I can get to work. Even when I was in jail, my thing was, hey, bro, I got to get back home to get to work. Right? I'm in the cells with these other motherfuckers who got much more serious crimes than me, and all of them like, hey man, you ain't supposed to be in here, right? These niggas are like paralegals in this motherfucker, bro. But yeah, man. Also, Peanut says Chicago said no, we ain't doing shit. And then Collapses, they got you on the ammunition. No, they didn't get me on the ammunition. The ammunition was the impetus for them to ask about the firearm. So here's the thing though. At least that's what they would like motherfuckers who don't know to believe. I know that because I am a licensed concealed carrier in the state of Michigan, when I drive in all the police agencies across the country, if they run the plates to my car, any car that is registered to me tells them that I am licensed to carry a concealed firearm in the state in which my license was issued. Okay? So they pulled me over under the auspices of, hey, you failed to signal while changing lanes. But if that was the case, did it take 5 of y'all and guns drawn on a signal on a failure to signal while changing lanes? That's the pretext for the stop. But they already thought that they were going to see they thought the gun was going to be in the car. The gun wasn't in the car. Just so happened because I kept that fucking magazine in the center console so long, I just forgot the bitch was there. That's how long that motherfucker was there. I just forgot it was there. And so, in me trying to be cooperative, guess what? They go to my grandma's house, rouse my grandma's house up, go through my luggage, find the gun that I told them was going to be, where the gun was going to be at, and then say that they found that gun in the car with me as if I was driving around Chicago with the firearm when I was not. You know, and that's part of the reason why the inconsistencies in the Chicago police's case is why that shit got thrown out. But Collapses, you just have to be over 21 in Texas to carry a gun, no license. That's scary. That's scary. Because, you know, how many people don't know the ins and outs of how to be safe with their firearm, how to when to engage with their firearm. Like that's fucking scary to me, man. That, like, you just got all you gotta do is be over 21. Shit, you can carry that bitch no matter what. That's some bullshit right there. But yeah, man, that's what happened to me. That's what's going on in Chicago right now. And I wanted to highlight that story because, again, like I said, that happened to me about 14 fucking years ago, man, and it's still happening today. So yeah, man, we got that going on. Now, here's what we about to get into, though. Here's what we about to get into, because, like I said, there was this story. Wait a second here. All right, so what happened was this. What happened was this. We did the podcast last what was that? Maybe Sunday or Saturday or something like that. I forget exactly what day it was. And of course, you know, we were talking about the shit that was going on with Stephen A. and how Stephen A. was coming at Jasmine Crockett and whatnot. And I, you know, sometimes what I do is I'll take segments of the show and I'll just make videos of those segments and just put those boys out on YouTube as their own standalone, you know, thing, you know, and oftentimes that's what gains kind of somewhat traction to the podcast, is putting out the other videos that, like, hey, so this is where this comes from, right? And so I got this this comment on the show. I got this comment on the video, and I said that I was going to reply to this comment on the video. But what cemented the reason why I was going to reply to this video, or at least this comment, while I was on the mic, as opposed to just going back and forth with this, you know, this person in the comment section, was Stephen A. Smith went on the Pivot podcast just recently. And he echoed some of the exact same things that this person is saying in the comments of that video, that was about Stephen A. pissing off everybody, because he essentially pissed off a lot of folks going after Jasmine Crockett. Okay, so so what I'm going to do first is that I'm going to play Stephen A. Smith's video of what he said on the Pivot podcast that echoed this sentiment, and then we gonna double back. Okay, so let me go ahead and pull this up so you guys can see right along with your man Spann. Hold on a second here while I do this here. Wait a second. All right, so here's the video of Stephen A. Smith on the Pivot podcast. So let me pull this up so you guys can see. And this is sort of like a short or something like that, so it's not like a very long video. But let's listen to what the fuck Stephen A. is talking about right here. Check this out.
Me, and they say, why do I come at Democrats like that? Because I feel like black folks have been played like suckers. You come in 1964, you put the Voting Rights Act into place, and what does Lyndon B. Johnson gets quoted as saying? He said, we sit up there and pass this legislation, the Negroes will be voting for us for the next 200 years. Well, it's about 60 plus. Evidently, he was right. Because what has happened? We ain't even talking policies. You look at Trump behavior, and if you think about voting that way, you a sellout. Well, here's the problem with that. So I gotta go this way, right? Remember that identity politics? You're supposed to be for us, right? You want to focus on immigration. You want to focus on the borders, right? You want to focus on the LGBTQ plus community, right? Including transgenders, right? Well, hello, what about the black folks that put y'all in this position all of these years? What about us? You care about us? Care about our issues? Does it matter to you what we going through? Because it doesn't seem to matter. You talk about identity politics. Some dude, Liam Thomas, I believe that was his name, that was at the University of Pennsylvania. When you're a man, you 400th in the world in swimming. And then you decide that you're going to change your gender or whatever, and you number one. Well, by doing so, is that fair to women? But we couldn't talk about that at that particular time because of the people who were in office. Some people look at me and they say, why do I come at Democrats?
All right. So that was the first pass. I'm gonna let that shit play the first pass. I ain't gonna say nothing on the first pass. Okay. Now, hold on. I'm gonna bring this back. But like I said, there was someone in my comment section who had something to say about what it was with my criticism of Stephen A. from the previous video. So I'm gonna go ahead and pull this up so you guys can see this comment section, this comment. All right. Now, the comment is, why are all black people required to think alike? Why are all black people required to vote Democrat? Is it because Joe Biden instructed us that if you don't vote Democrat, you ain't black? Is this a true statement? All kidding aside, I'm starting to believe that any dissenting opinion of the 92% will get you canceled out of the black race. Black people are the only demographic to give over 90% of their support to one party. No other racial group does this. Pledging unwavering allegiance to one party hasn't gotten us anywhere in over 50 years. The Republicans know that they can ignore us and still get elected. The Democrats know that they can continue to make empty promises, do nothing for us, and will always have over 92% of our vote. Lyndon Johnson said the quiet part out loud in 1963, and it still resonates today. These Negroes are getting pretty uppity these days, and that's a problem for us since they got something now they have never had before, the political pull to back up their uppityness. Now we got to do something about this. We've got to give them a little something, just enough to quiet them down, not enough to make a difference. I'll have them niggas voting Democrat for the next 200 years. Let's continue to have groupthink and silence any dissenting voices like Stephen A., who is not on code. Now, I've seen this sentiment being expressed often. We all see this, especially in regards to how, like this last presidential election and how, not even just the last one, the one prior to this one. Y'all remember like these motherfuckers like Tariq Nasheed was going around telling y'all about tangibles and all this. We need to withhold our black vote, and by withholding our black vote, they gotta come to us with and give us some tangibles. We need to be able to tangibly see what they doing for black folks, this, that, and the other. Right? Now, the interesting thing about the whole tangibles movement shit was that it's fucking illegal. Right? It is fucking illegal for any legislation to only designate benefits for one group of folk within the United States. It's fucking illegal, right? It's fucking illegal. And so, like, I remember people talking about, well, Kamala Harris didn't say she wasn't going to do anything specifically for black folks. Kamala Harris couldn't tell you that she was going to do anything specifically for black folks because Kamala Harris, being a lawyer, knew that the shit was fucking illegal. It's illegal. They cannot give you legislation specifically for one group of people, right? But here's the thing. As he says this about Lyndon Baines Johnson and, as his comment section comment says the same thing about Lyndon Baines Johnson, it had me look up, damn, did Lyndon Baines Johnson really say that? Because I know there was this one quote that was attributed to Lyndon Baines Johnson in regards to the South. But did Lyndon Baines Johnson say something about he gonna have the niggas voting for Democrats for 200 years? And so I looked it up, and this is what came up, man. I mean, some of y'all may not necessarily like Googles anymore. I do my Googles. I try to find different sources and where my shit is at. But this is what came up in their AI overview. Let me make sure that it's clear about that. It says the statement, "I'll have them niggas voting Democratic for 200 years," is an alleged quote attributed to Lyndon Baines Johnson, but its authenticity is highly disputed. While some sources claim he said it, there is no definitive documentary evidence, such as an official transcript or recording to prove that he did say that. Okay? Now, they said the context of this particular claim was the alleged comment is said to have been made after the passage of the landmark Civil Rights Act of 1964. It is often cited as evidence that Johnson was a cynical political operator who used civil rights legislation to gain the black vote for the Democratic Party rather than out of genuine moral conviction. Now, here's the thing. This is the quote that I actually did remember hearing, and this is attributed to one Bill Moyers, who was a former aide of Lyndon Baines Johnson back then. He says a similar but confirmed quote from Johnson's offers an important contrast. A former aide, Bill Moyers, recalled that after signing the Civil Rights Act, Johnson said, "I think we've just delivered the South to the Republican Party for the rest of my life and yours." This remark highlights his genuine fear that prioritizing civil rights would cost the Democratic Party the segregationist votes of the South, a prediction that largely came true. Okay? And so, what happened was this. Lyndon Baines Johnson signs the 1964 Civil Rights Act. Okay? He also therefore went on to sign the Voting Rights Act of 1965, and I believe it was the Fair Housing Act of 1968. Those all came at great cost to Democrats in southern states. Now, why would those come at great cost to Democrats in southern states, you would ask, right? So Republicans go out of their way to remind us that it was the Democrats who were members of the KKK. That it was the Democrats who were all about being about segregation and subjugating the black folks. And to some degree, they were correct, right? They were correct in that. They're not telling you a lie in saying that that's how the Democrats operated in that time, because that's exactly how they operated in that time. And I've said on this podcast, you probably heard it many other places before, that is not how the Democratic Party operates today. This isn't our granddaddy's Democratic Party, nor is this our granddaddy's Republican Party. Shit's changed since then. Shit's changed a lot since then. So when Republicans go out of their way to tell you that, hey, it was Lincoln that freed the slaves, and Lincoln was a Republican, then why is these people in the South who are voting Republican and voting for Donald Trump carrying around the battle flag of the people that wanted to keep my people locked down? Make that make sense to me. Now, it doesn't make sense if you don't know the history. But when you understand the history, then you understand, like, oh, so this is why the fuck y'all get to be this while trying to tell me something else, because they're trying to make sure that you don't know the history either. All right. For those of you who are not familiar, I'm sure you probably heard of the Daughters of the Confederacy, the United Daughters of the Confederacy, who went on a decades-long crusade to reimagine and rewrite the history of the Civil War, to make sure that the civil rights people, but the Confederacy was being memorialized and lionized in a way where they wouldn't be seen as traitors to this nation, where we have schools that are named after Confederates, that we have monuments that are out here built in the name of Confederates, that we have roads in the name of Confederates. All of these people were traitors to this fucking nation. The United Daughters of the Confederacy and their advocacy for, being able to rewrite that history has kind of led to them to be able to do that. Okay. But we're going to go back though. We're going to go back, and I'm going to pull Stephen A back up. Okay. I'm going to pull Stephen A back up, because I think it's important that we go back and we start, we kind of dissect what he's saying in real time. So I'm gonna go ahead and pull Stephen A's ass, his raggedy ass, back on up, and let's dissect what the fuck he's saying real quick. Let me do that. Here we go.
Democrats like that, because I feel like black folks have been played like suckers. You come in 1964, you put the Voting Rights Act into place, and what does Lyndon B. Johnson gets quoted as saying? He said, we sit up there and pass this legislation, the Negroes will be voting for us for the next 200 years.
Now, we just established that may not even be a real quote, right? Stephen A. Smith credits himself for being a journalist. Does he even know if that quote is real? Has he looked that up at all? Because we were looking it up. We can't find anywhere where it's actually documented. Even if we were to grant that it was true, it came as a result of giving black people civil rights. This came after he signed legislation to put black people on par with white people as far as just being able to exist in this nation, if we were to grant this to be true. Think about that for a second. Yeah, Lyndon Baines Johnson was a racist piece of shit. Any historian worth their salt, and any person who is objective and true to the true story of shit knows that he was a racist. But also, the complicated thing about this history is that, like, this racist gave us these fucking civil rights. You can be objective about it. Now, the thing is, like I said, Stephen A. is supposed to be a fucking journalist. He's saying that this is what Lyndon Baines Johnson said. Right now, we can't even establish if that was even a real quote. In much the same way that, like, people go around still talking about the Willie Lynch quote-unquote letter that isn't real. And we're not going to get into that today, but yeah.
Well, it's about 60 plus. Evidently, he was right, because what has happened? We ain't even talking policies. You look at Trump behavior, and if you think about voting that way, you a sellout.
Yeah, so we talk policy here on Mr. Spann Official. We talk policy here. And when it comes to the policies that Donald Trump has been enacting, when it comes to the political priorities that Donald Trump has been prioritizing, we see that Donald Trump is trying to eradicate the 14th Amendment. The 14th Amendment, which is the amendment that gave black people citizenship here in the United States of America. The 14th Amendment was one of the three Reconstruction Amendments. The 13th, the 14th, and the 15th Amendment. The 13th Amendment was the one that abolished slavery somewhat. If you were involved in a crime, they could, legally enslave you again, which is why you have what we would call incarcerated slaves, right? Many people who are doing work in the prison system are essentially slaves working as slaves in the prison system. But the 13th Amendment officially, quote unquote, officially abolished slavery. The 14th Amendment is what gave black people citizenship. Now, the Trump administration will tell you that they're trying to get rid of the anchor babies. These people are coming over to this nation and they trying to, they use our laws to become citizens. And even though that they're not real citizens, but they keep they babies are citizens. And because they're here and they babies are citizens, then they get to stay in this and the other. And to many people who don't know that 14th Amendment is what gave black people citizenship, they're like, yeah, let's get rid of that. Not knowing, I'm like, yeah. They get rid of your black ass citizenship too. Okay. And then the 15th Amendment is what gave black men the right to vote. Okay. So the 13th Amendment abolished slavery. The 14th Amendment gave us citizenship. And the 15th Amendment gave black men the right to vote. Women still weren't given the right to vote yet. So it was only black men who were given the right to vote. These were what we call the Reconstruction, the Reconstruction Amendments. All right. So the Reconstruction Amendments gave us the right to vote, gave us citizenship, and abolished slavery. Right. Right after that happened, there was a faction of the Republican Party. Despite the fact that the Republican Party was filled with abolitionists and people who were against the whole thing about slavery, but you had people in the South who were Republicans were like, all right, yeah, okay, so we done did all these things for these black folks. Fuck, man, like, haven't we done enough? Haven't we done enough? And those haven't we done enough people are where the lily white Republicans come from, okay? That's where they come from. So we're gonna move and we're gonna read a little bit from about the Lily White movement. We get this from Wikipedia. All right. So let me go ahead and pull Stephen A down for a second here. We're gonna come back to Stephen in a minute. It says, but the Lily White movement was an anti-black political movement within the Republican Party in the United States in the late 19th and early 20th centuries. It was a response. It was a response to the political and socioeconomic gains made by African Americans following the Civil War and the 13th Amendment to the Constitution, which eliminated slavery and involuntary servitude except as punishment for a crime. During Reconstruction, black leaders in the South gained influence in the Republican Party by organizing black people as an important voting bloc via union leagues and the biracial black and tan faction of the Republicans. Conservative whites, again, even to this day, conservative whites don't mean black people no good. If you're a conservative white, chances are the policies that you champion come at the expense of me and my people. Okay? Conservative whites attempted to eliminate this influence and recover white voters who had defected to the Democratic Party. The Lily White movement proved successful through the South, and it was a key factor in the growth of the Republican Party in the region. Immediately following the war, all of the southern states enacted black codes, laws intended specifically to curtail the rights of the newly freed African Americans. Many northern states enacted their own black codes, restricting and barring black immigration. The Civil Rights Act of 1866, however, nullified most of these laws, and the Freedmen's Bureau was able to regulate many of the affairs of Southern black men. who were granted the right to vote in 1867. Groups such as the Union League and the Radical Republicans sought total equality and complete integration of black people into American society. The Republican Party itself held significant power in the South during Reconstruction because of the federal government's role. Okay? But again, they didn't stay there. They didn't stay there. During Reconstruction, Union Leagues were formed across the South after 1867 as all black working auxiliaries of the Republican Party. They were secret organizations that mobilized freedmen to register to vote and to vote Republican. They discussed political issues, promoted civic projects, and mobilized workers opposed to certain employers. Most branches were segregated, but few were integrated. The leaders of the all-black units were mostly urban black people from the North who had never been enslaved. Historian Foner reports. By the end of 1867, it seemed that virtually every black voter in the South had enrolled in the Union League, the Loyal League, or some equivalent local political organization. Meetings were generally held in a black church or school. Okay? Now, here's the downfall of the black Republicans. By 1890, with a few exceptions, the Democratic Party had gained control of all the state legislatures in the South. From 1890 to 1908, Southern states accomplished disenfranchisement of black people and in some states, many poor whites. From 1901 through 1928, no black people served in the U.S. Congress due to their disenfranchisement across the South. In 1928, Oscar DePriest was elected U.S. representative from Illinois. Black leaders were barred in 1922 from the Virginia Republican Congressional Convention. The state had imposed racial segregation in public places, and disenfranchised most black people by this time. At the national level, the Republican Party made some attempts to respond to black interests. In 1920, Republicans made opposition to lynching part of their platform in the National Convention. Lynchings of black women and men in the South had increased in the decades around the turn of the 20th century. Leonidas Dwyer, a white Republican representative from St. Louis, worked with the NAACP to introduce an anti-lynching bill into the House, where he gained strong passage in 1922. One of the black and tan partisans who continued to hold appointed office was Walter Cohen of New Orleans, the customs inspector, and later comptroller of customs. He gained appointments from 4 Republican presidents and continued through office through the Calvin Coolidge administration. Now, understand that the Lily White movement was a result of black advancement. The backlash that happened after the ascension of black people after the eradication of slavery. So in 8 years, black people went from being slaves to being congressmen and being senators across the South. White people were losing their fucking minds over it. And in some pockets of the Republican Party back then, that was a bridge too far. And many of them defected to becoming Democrats then. Okay? So even then, in the Republican Party, there were racists within the Republican Party who had no fucking thing. They had no affinity towards helping black people advance at all. It was a bridge too far for them, so much so that they defected to the Democratic Party, right? Now, again, we talked about how the Democratic Party was a party of slavery, and it was the Democrats who was members of the KKK. And I would because I'm an honest broker, I will tell you, yes, that was true historically. That was true historically. But how do we come to this flip? Right? How do we come to this flip? So you've already got the Lily White movement after Reconstruction in the late 19th century to the early 20th century, right? We already got that. We've already established that. Now, hold on. Let's go back to what Stephen A. was saying, though. Hold on. Let me pull that back up. Let's go back to what Stephen A. was talking about. Here we go. Let me do this here. All right. Here we go. Let's see. Let's go back to see what the fuck he talking about. He said, because if you vote for Donald Trump, you will sell out.
Well, here's the problem with that. So I gotta go this way, right? Remember that identity politics? You're supposed to be for us, right? You want to focus on immigration. You want to focus on the borders, right? You want to focus on the LGBTQ plus community, right? Including transgenders, right? Well, hello, what about the black folks that put y'all in this position all of these years? What about us?
Now, here's the other thing I think is very important to say, is that there's this thing called intersectionality. You can be a part of one group and another group at the same time. You can be black, and you can be an immigrant. You can be black and you can be of the LGBTQ community. You can be black and you can be of the trans community. Like there, just because you are part of one group doesn't mean you can't be a part of the other. In some ways, policy affects you in different, no matter how it comes, because of where your particular situation intersects with the policy. So when I hear someone like Stephen A., a college-educated man, a journalist, talk about, I feel like black people have been played and set aside the policies. If I vote for Donald Trump, I'm a sellout. And it's like, nigga, are you not paying attention to the policy? Because it's not as if black people are not paying attention to the policy. And this is the thing. This right here, the idea that black people are not paying attention to the policy, this is the part that I find the most insulting. This is what I find insulting, because essentially what you're saying is that black people aren't politically savvy enough to understand how these policies affect us, and that we vote based on a team rather than the policies and how they will affect us. This is the most insidious shit that permeates political commentary, is that black people are voting for the Democrats out of pure loyalty and not political expediency. Black people understand the politics more than probably anybody, because we understand that if we get shit that we want, guess what? It's going to benefit every motherfucking body. And if we don't get the shit that we want, guess what? Everybody gonna get fucked up besides a select few. Right? Which is why it's important for those in power right now to make us feel as though your vote don't matter. What you going to the polls for? Your vote don't matter. Shit, you live in a blue state, man. Shit, whoever they vote for, that's what's gonna happen. Like, nah. Meanwhile, Republicans in Louisiana at this very moment are arguing at the Supreme Court to gut what's left of the Voting Rights Act of 1965. That's policy. That's policy the Republicans are championing right now. Right now, Republicans are telling you, yeah, your history doesn't really matter. So yeah, we getting rid of like all these Black History Month, Gay Pride Month, all these things that will highlight the accomplishments of these marginalized groups. Yeah, we getting rid of that. We don't do that no more. Yeah, many of the people who have, gained prominent positions within the government, they're probably the first general or the first admiral of color in this particular area. Yeah, we don't want your kind in the military anymore. We getting rid of you motherfuckers. This is policy. This is stated policy right now. So it's not just Donald Trump's behavior, nigga. It's the policy that affects people in a very real way. When the policy is telling folks that, hey, these consent decrees that the Justice Department would use to get police departments in line after violating the civil rights of its citizens, yeah, we don't do that no more. Yeah, we don't do that no more. Yeah, go ahead, do what the fuck y'all want to these people. Did we not just see that happen in Chicago on the South Side, in South Shore? When Donald Trump sending them fucking ICE agents into a black neighborhood with Black Hawk helicopters descending upon that apartment building? Where he was separating black parents from their children? Where they were grabbing people out of their apartments in the middle of the night? Where they were ransacking their motherfucking apartments? Did we not just watch that happen? I mean, come on. This is all policy. What are you talking about, nigga?
Care about us? Care about our issues? Does it matter to you what we going through? Because it doesn't seem to matter. You talk about identity politics. Some dude, Liam Thomas, I believe that was his name, that was at the University of Pennsylvania. When you're a man, you 400th in the world in swimming. and then you decide that you're going to change your gender or whatever, and you number one.
I told y'all a while ago, they used that issue. Like Republicans used that issue to perfection. They perfected that shit. Think about this for a second. A few years ago, I want to say about maybe 10 years ago, Republicans were trying to make transgenderism a political winner for themselves. And they started off with the bathroom bans, right? That you had to go to the bathroom with which you were, designated as a child. When you were born, you got to go to the bathroom that you were told to go to when you was born. So if you was born and we told you was a boy, you got to go to the male bathroom. You was born and we told you was a girl, you got to go to that bathroom, right? And what happened? You had entities like the NBA taking all-star games away from the state of North Carolina. Basketball tournaments from the NCAA and the NBA were removed from the state. I believe even even Georgia tried to do something similar, and they lost a Major League Baseball All-Star game or some shit like that. And so it wasn't a politically viable fucking position to hold back then. It was just seen as the blatant discrimination that it was. Many people weren't even thinking about transgenders and where they went to the bathroom, because people just like, hey man, I got to go to the bathroom, right? And they lost big time on that. Business interests was not really fucking with the Republicans on that, but they stayed at it, and they stayed at it, and they stayed at it. And then when Leah Thompson, because he said Liam, but then when Leah Thompson tied for 5th, he wasn't number 1, tied for 5th with Riley Gaines, who has made a career out of, who's turned her 5th place with Leah Thompson, the tie that she had for 5th place with Leah Thompson, has turned that into a political career, right? To advocate against transgenders being able to compete in the sports with the sex that they identify as. And then we start seeing legislation pop up across the nation from Republican legislatures to address transgender kids playing in sports that they, identify as. Meanwhile, many of them can't even name a transgender child in their state. They can't name a transgender child participating in any sports in their high school athletics. Can't do it without Googling the shit. So they made the idea of being transgender an outsized issue, despite the fact that there, first of all, very few transgender people. Second of all, very few transgender people who are competing in sports. And then they wrapped it around protecting women and girls. They took this very niche issue and made it a prominent issue for so many. And here you got Stephen A. Smith on a national platform, someone who, again, this man has millions of fucking people who listen to him every day. And he's thinking about, and even he's getting this wrong. As a sports guy, he's getting this wrong. I'm a fucking pipe fitter. He's getting this wrong.
Well, by doing so, is that fair to women? But we couldn't talk about that at that particular time because of the people who were in office.
And so now he's saying we can't talk about that because of who was in office. No, you could talk about it. We're talking about it now. You sound stupid to anybody who's learned or tried to at least be learned on the situation, but you sound stupid. You sound ignorant even now. As a sports guy, you sound ignorant now because you should have done the research to see, hey, why are we talking about Leah Thomas right now again? She came in 5th with Riley Gaines. She didn't even win the whole damn tournament. So what are we talking about? That means somebody was beating her, right? Right? They were beating her. Did she come close to Katie Ledecky's times at all? No? Then what the fuck are we talking about? What the fuck are we talking about? And so it was this and the he got to talking about how he was wrong about Kyrie Irving and the vaccine and all this other shit. That was a trip too. But yeah. But here's the thing, right? So I'm gonna go back though, because we're gonna go back into the history of why black people are voting for Republicans. I think we done with the Stephen A. Smith portion of this shit, but why are black people voting Republican so overwhelmingly? Now we already went into the thing with the Lily White movement within the Republican Party that had them moving against moving against the agenda of helping to advance black people and the black plight in America back at the time, right? That wasn't the only thing. So again, Stephen A. Smith alluded to Lyndon Baines Johnson and the passage of the Civil Rights Act of 1964. And that's got that was the reason why black people was voting Democrat. But also you got to understand, at the time, Lyndon Baines Johnson wasn't running against himself. Lyndon Baines Johnson was running against one Barry Goldwater. Now, Barry Goldwater was a Republican nominee for president of the United States in 1964. Okay? The Republican nominee who was staunchly against civil rights and civil rights for black folks in 1964. But don't just take my word for it. Let's go back. Let's go listen to what the fuck Barry Goldwater had to say about the Civil Rights Act back then. We get this from PBS.
He was a considerable figure in America, a presidential candidate, of course.
I'm sorry.
But a figure who, by espousing...
Wait a second here. I'm trying to get this maximized so you guys can... Okay, so it won't let me maximize this any bigger. I'm sorry.
Gave political America the sense that we had been entirely drowned by the New Deal. And of course, Goldwater was unremitting in his opposition to communism, whose defeat he lived to see.
Let me ask you about another aspect of the Goldwater legacy, and it's that Goldwater announces that he won't support the Civil Rights Act. The realignment of the South away from the Democratic Party for the first time since the Civil War happened in that election in 1964. And there is a criticism that I know you're aware of from the left that actually the conservative movement has, and this is the kindest assertion, is that it has provided safe haven for racism in the United States. And I wonder if, how you reconcile this and whether there isn't some truth to this.
Well, it's a complicated topic.
No, it's not.
I think we have to look first at Goldwater. Goldwater was not a racist. He desegregated the Senate cafeteria. He was a founding member of the Arizona chapter of the NAACP. But he opposed the Civil Rights Act for constitutional reasons. It wasn't out of cultural or racial reasons. That said, there were other people on the right who did oppose civil rights acts, including the acts under Eisenhower in the 50s, for those cultural and racial reasons. And I think there we can see a legacy of bigotry, a legacy that William F. Buckley Jr. eventually repudiated, but I think still has haunted the conservative movement to the present day.
The fact that, okay, so this isn't exactly what the fuck I thought it was. However, the fact that the fact that these folks can't come to grips with the fact that, they're trying to give him some great. Well, he helped found the Arizona chapter of the NAACP, and he desegregated the Senate lunchroom and this, that, and the other. But yeah, his policies, by and large, the policies that he supported would have kept black people subjugated, right? And he was the major opponent of the Civil Rights Act. He was the Republican presidential candidate, and we wouldn't have the Civil Rights Act of 1964. We probably don't get the Voting Rights Act of 1965. We probably don't get the Fair Housing Act of 1968 if Barry Goldwater is president of the United States and Lyndon Baines Johnson isn't, right? So the tangibles that one Tariq Nasheed would ask you, what were the tangibles? Those were the tangibles, right? Now here's the other part. Tangibly, you have the right to vote. Tangibly, you have the right by law to move wherever the fuck it is you want to move. Tangibly, by law, you can't be discriminated against because of the color of your skin. Now, tangibly, you should be able to go out there and vote for candidates who support your political ideology. You should be able to go to the voting booth and vote for someone who is going to uplift your community. Meanwhile, the opposite side is going after your ability to do just that. They're going after the laws that have given you the ability to advocate politically in this nation for yourself and your community, right? So let's go to the story here, right? Let's go to the story here because I've alluded to this already, but I'm going to allude to it again. The U.S. Supreme Court conservatives appear willing to blunt key Voting Rights Act provision. The U.S. Supreme Court's conservative justice signaling their willingness to, on Wednesday, to undercut another key section of the Voting Rights Act, the landmark 1965 federal law enacted by Congress to prevent racial discrimination in voting. Questions they posed during arguments in a major case involving Louisiana electoral districts reflected an interest in curbing the Voting Rights Act Section 2, which bars voting maps that will result in diluting the clout of minorities, even without direct proof of racist intent. The court, with a 6-3 conservative majority in recent years, has moved American law dramatically rightward. Republicans currently hold a slim majority in the U.S. House of Representatives, and a decision gutting the Section 2 could benefit them. Okay? What the fuck, man? While the conservative justice seemed united in their skepticism towards this provision, exactly how they might depart from its current application was unclear. Some seem focused on making it harder to prove claims under Section 2, while others signaled opposition to any consideration of race in the drawing of legislative districts, even to remedy a Section 2 violation. Still, others suggested phasing out the provision's remedial role. The fact that there are Republicans and conservatives right now attacking the Voting Rights Act of 1965 should send a chill down your spine, especially if you live in the South. Because essentially what they're trying to do is they're trying to be able to draw up these maps that would give Republicans control of the Congress into perpetuity, where they won't necessarily be beholden to you. They get to pick who their voters are, not the other way around. Also understand that if you look at how the Republicans are governing right now, they're not very popular. Republicans have they have the House of Representatives, they have the Senate, they have the Supreme Court, they have the White House, and yet the government is shut down and people are being forced to go to work and not get paid. Meanwhile, Donald Trump is knocking down part of the East Wing of the White House and putting up a fucking ballroom that nobody fucking asked for. Also saying that the Justice Department owes him $230 million for investigating him when he was out here doing his criminal shit when he wasn't president. If the Republicans are able to maintain control of the House, Donald Trump isn't going to be held to account. But if the Democrats are able to get in control of the House, then suddenly some of this shit that's been going on, we can kind of put a blunt to it. We can check that. But if the Supreme Court guts this Voting Rights Act, this portion of the Voting Rights Act of 1965, suddenly you're going to see a bunch of Republican states start redrawing all of their maps. And they're going to start drawing out black districts. They're going to start gerrymandering their voters, where where the voters align with them, not so much the voters picking who they want. This is what they're doing right now. That's policy, Stephen A. That's policy. But going back into the history. So oftentimes we hear about the Republicans, we hear sometimes, like we talked about the Lily White movement. Oftentimes we don't necessarily hear about, sometimes we hear about the Dixiecrats, but the Dixiecrats were essentially the ones who were really about their racism life. Okay? The Dixiecrats were the ones who was like, nah, equal rights, fuck that. Absolutely not. Okay? They actually became their own faction within the Democratic Party. much like Joe Manchin and Kirsten Sinema kind of did, what they call them blue dog Democrats now. These were those motherfuckers, right? But the Dixiecrats were led by one Strom Thurmond. Okay, Strom Thurmond was a I want to say, I'm sorry, what did he come out of South Carolina? I want to say South Carolina. But he came up with the Dixiecrats. He was the leader of the Dixiecrats, and they formed around 1948. Okay, and this was in response to Harry Truman integrating the armed forces because they didn't want black people fighting alongside white folks in these wars. And so when Harry Truman decided to integrate the armed forces, yeah, a lot of those Dixiecrats, they was pissed, man. They was pissed. So we're going to read. And it says the States Rights Democratic Party. This is what they would call it, the States Rights Democratic Party. Also colloquially referred to as the Dixiecrat Party, was a short-lived segregationist states' rights and old Southern Democratic political party in the United States, actively primarily in the South. It arose due to a Southern regional split in opposition to the National Democratic Party. After President Harry S. Truman, the leader of the Democratic Party, ordered integration in the military in 1948 and other actions to address civil rights of African Americans, including the first presidential proposal for comprehensive civil and voting rights. Many Southern white politicians who objected to this organized themselves as a breakaway faction. They wished to protect the ability of states to decide on racial segregation. Its members were referred to as Dixiecrats, portmanteau of Dixie referring to the Southern United States and Democrat. In the 1930s, a political realignment occurred largely due to the New Deal policies of Franklin Delano Roosevelt. Many Democrats in the South supported substantial economic intervention. Civil rights for African Americans were not specifically incorporated within the New Deal agenda, due in part to the Southern control over many key positions of power within the U.S. Congress. Supporters assumed control of the state Democratic parties in part or in full in several Southern states. They opposed racial integration, and they wanted to retain Jim Crow laws and other aspects of de jure and de facto racial discrimination. On non-racial issues, they had heterogeneous beliefs. Despite the Dixiecrat success in several states, Truman was narrowly reelected after the 1948 election. Its leaders generally returned to the Democratic Party, or at least for a time. Although Dixiecrats weakened Democratic identity among Southern voters, the Dixiecrat standard bearer, Strom Thurmond of South Carolina, eventually switched to the Republican Party in 1964 in opposition to national civil rights legislation. Strom Thurmond died in our lifetime, like in my lifetime. I believe he was 100 years old when Strom Thurmond died. And then on top of that, we find out that Strom Thurmond had a whole ass black daughter. So the leader of the Dixiecrat movement, the staunchly racist wing of the Democratic Party at the time, was also, dibbling and dabbling with the sisters. Make that make sense. Okay? But you would have a lot of Republicans tell you that, like, the switch never happened. Well, there was never a switch. Candace Owens goes around and she says silly shit like that. The switch never happened. And I always come back to this question. If the switch never happened, then how do you find Republicans arguing on the side of conserving what was that? Confederate monuments? Why do we have the current Secretary of Defense reinstating names on bases for Confederate generals? Why do we have the current Secretary of Defense trying to whitewash, Black history from the learning, from the classes at some of these our military academies? What is the purpose of that? These are the Republicans now that are doing that. So if you're going to tell me, if you want to be honest about it, like if the switch never happened, then what the fuck? How the fuck do the Republicans find themselves on this end of it? Make that make sense. So you got the Lily White movement, you got the Dixiecrats, who essentially became Republicans later on in response to the legislation that Lyndon Baines Johnson put forth with the 64 Voting Rights Act. I'm sorry, with the 64 Civil Rights Act, with the 65 Voting Rights Act, and with the 68 Fair Housing Act. Okay? Policy. But it's not just that. It's not just that. How do black people find themselves voting for Democrats in the high clips that we find ourselves voting for Democrats? Here's another reason. Because we're not dumb. And we understand that some things happen by design. And we also understand that niggas think we stupid and think they talking in code when we see the game, when we see the play right from the jump. So I'll have you know that there's this man, and we played this video before here on the Mr. Spann Official Podcast and the Spann Report Podcast Network when it was the Spann Report podcast, man. But we talking about, you got Lee Atwater, who was a Republican operative. He worked under Richard Nixon, worked really well with Roger Stone, who is a really big Donald Trump supporter today. I believe Donald Trump even pardoned this motherfucker for some shit, because Roger Stone is always involved in some bullshit. You know what I mean? But Lee Atwater basically kind of gave the game away when he talked about how Republicans talk about the policies that are going to negatively affect black people, while also not really saying that it's going to negatively affect black people, right? So let me go ahead and pull this up so you guys can listen right along with your mans. But let's listen to Lee Atwater talk shit about how they do the coded stuff. All right, so the caption, for those of you not watching, it says, in 1981, the legendarily brutal campaign consultant Lee Atwater was working in Ronald Reagan's White House when he was interviewed by Alexander Lamas. All right. And then it says, in this audio made public for the first time ever, Atwater lays out how Republicans can win the vote of racist without sounding racist themselves. All right, so let's listen to Lee Atwater talk his shit.
Here's how I would approach that issue as a statistician or a political scientist, or no, as a psychologist, which I'm not, is how abstract you handle the race thing. In other words, you start out, and now y'all aren't quoting me on this. All right, I won't hear it. You start out in 1954 by saying nigger, nigger, nigger. By 1968, you can't say nigger, that hurts your backfire, so you say stuff like forced busing, states' rights, and all that stuff. And you're getting so abstract now, you're talking about cutting taxes, and all of these things you're talking about are totally economic things, and the byproduct of them is blacks get hurt worse than whites.
Now, where are we seeing that now? You're talking all these abstract things. You're talking tax cuts and everything else, but then the end result is blacks get hurt worse than whites. Didn't we just pass one of the biggest tax cuts in the history of this nation not too long ago? Aren't we now seeing like the disinvestment in our infrastructure? Are we now seeing the disinvestment in our education department? They're trying to dismantle the education department. And they're trying to privatize the collection of student loans. How many of our people are dealing with that? Meanwhile, it doesn't sound racist, but it disproportionately affects black people. This was said over 40 fucking years ago. They're still doing it.
And subconsciously, maybe that is part of it. I'm not saying that, but I'm saying that if it is getting that abstract and that coded, that we're doing away with the racial problem one way or the other. You follow me? Because obviously sitting around saying we want to cut taxes, we want to cut this, and we want is much more abstract than even the busing thing, and a hell of a lot more abstract than nigger.
Yeah, so they don't have to say the racist part. They could just, code it into something else while negatively affecting your constituency. So again, we going back, like Stephen, they talking about it despite the policy, we just talking about how Donald Trump acts. Like, no, nigga. Many of us understand that Donald Trump's policies also affect us in a fucked up ass way. How many people who are on public assistance may go without being able to feed their kids because of Donald Trump's non-desire to even negotiate with Democrats about what we gonna do about these healthcare subsidies that are set to expire and people's healthcare insurance is about to spike? He ain't showing you no interest that he gives a fuck about that, but he has told you, y'all, hey, we're gonna get $20 billion to Argentina and buy their beef. Meanwhile, the farmers are like, what the fuck? Hey, I'm gonna go ahead and spend $250 million on this ballroom that nobody asked for. Oh yeah, that's right. And give me $230 million for the Justice Department because they was investigating me, and I don't like the fact that the Justice Department was investigating me, and I get to make the choice of whether or not I get that money back. So yeah, y'all gonna give me $230 million, and yeah, we gonna do that. Yeah. Oh, but I ain't taking a salary though. So yeah, it's a wash, right? It's all fucking policy, Stephen A. Now, and also to that person who was in my comment section talking about black people voting for Democrats all this time, it's because black people understand. Let me go ahead and bring this shit home. Black people understand that the policies of the Republican Party offer us nothing. Most of the people that you see, black people that you see voting for Republicans, many times they will say stupid shit to you like this. Hey, what have the Democrats done for us lately? But they never ask the question, what are the Republicans offering? They never answer that question, or never are they presented with it. What is the Republican Party offering black voters? Other than to say y'all different from the Democrats. Meanwhile, your policy says that everything that we stand for, y'all don't really fuck with. Y'all are trying to erode our ability to go to the polls. Many of the section of the Voting Rights Act that they are trying to gut is about the maps. Over 10 years ago, they had already gutted the ability for states to, they had gutted the part of the Voting Rights Act that prevented states from being able to make changes to their voting laws without pre-clearance from the federal government. So they're slowly eroding at your ability to even cast your ballot. But you want me to consider these motherfuckers for office? Ask yourself that question. Y'all are so fucking independent. What are these people offering black people as an alternative to the Democratic Party? Because again, black people voted Republican at one point in time because it was politically expedient for black people to vote Republican at that time. Black people are now voting Democratic because it's politically expedient for black people to vote Democratic at this time. One is openly antagonistic to everything black people stand for. The other one is just like, y'all are part of the coalition. But black people have to make a choice of harm mitigation. We mitigate harm more often than not when we go to the ballot. I'm thinking about shit outside of my existence when I go to the polls. It's not just about me when I go to the polls. I could think about this for a second. I pay a lot of money in taxes. I do. I don't like it, but it's the reality of my situation. Largely, I vote for Democrats who are about, the taxing and whatnot. I stand to benefit from tax cuts to some degree. Not like in nowhere near close to what these motherfuckers is getting, but I stand to benefit a little bit. I make a nice little money, right? I work hard for my money, but I ain't happy when I see my check and I'm like, God damn, why they get so much, right? But at the same time, I understand that those funds go to the roads, to the schools, to the social safety net. I also remember the fact that I was a kid on welfare who benefited from that cheese and from that peanut butter and from the farina and things of that nature. I recognize where I come from and like, hey, I'm paying it back. There may come a time, God forbid, I may end up finding myself in a situation where like, yo, man, I need that help again. Hopefully that help will be there if I need it. Right? But far too many of us, some of us who do have means, find ourselves thinking we'll never be back in that position. It ain't gonna never happen to me. And then, so now you're looking down on the people who need that help. Not me. Not your boy. And so that's why it's so frustrating. That's why it's so frustrating when you see black people who are struggling. Some of the people I used to love, bro, who voted for that. And they think it's just about a difference of opinion. It's like, no, nigga, this is about life and death. This is about our existence as a people. This is about our subjugation as a people. These people have been doing this for years. They never fucking stopped. They have been trying to erode everything that made us equal to them from the very beginning, and they're on the precipice of doing it. And the unfortunate part about it is some of our people are willing to help. So when I see the question, what have black people gotten for voting for the Democratic Party? We got the right to vote. We got the right to our being able to be, treated equal. We got the right to move how we want to move. What we do with that is of our own volition. But voting for a party that offers you nothing just for the sake of voting for a party that's different from what you may have been voting for before, despite the fact that they're offering you nothing, is idiotic, stupid, moronic, imbecilic thinking. I say in my intro, I could never vote for somebody who thinks relating to me is voting with a felon. I'm not a felon. Our president is. I haven't been convicted of anything 34 times. Our president has. He is not offering you anything of substance. You think that all of the things he's going to do is going to affect someone else. And everyone who thought that he was just going to affect someone else got the shock of their lives when they figured out, oh shit, that shit he talking about gonna touch me too. Shout out to those federal workers who voted for him. Shout out to those farmers who voted for him. Shout out to those Republicans in red states who get all the welfare who voted for him. Shout out to those people who are in red states who voted for him, whose kids' after school program has been cut because they've cut the funding for the Department of Education. They're offering you nothing. And yet you want to give me a quote allegedly from Lyndon Baines Johnson about black people voting for the Democratic Party for the next 200 years, despite the fact that the Republicans have offered you jack shit. Make that make sense. From the Lily White movement to the Dixiecrats to the Trump movement of today, from Democrat to Republican, they have been against your black ass the entire time. I don't ever want to hear about black people voting for the Democratic Party and why we voting for the Democratic Party so much when the Republicans offer you jack shit. Also, as an aside, For those of you who would say, well, what about the Green Party? What about some of these these third parties or whatever? Where the fuck are they right now? Where is the Green Party right now? Where is Jill Stein right now? Those motherfuckers are political cicadas. They show up every 4 years, make a lot of noise, siphon votes, and disappear. And we won't see them again until 2028. Mark my words. You ain't seeing them in making no grassroots efforts towards, building up coalitions and, propping up candidates across, the country for Congress or Senate or anything else. You're not seeing that. You're not seeing any of these motherfuckers. You're not seeing it. So don't even come at me with the third party shit until they show themselves up as a viable option where we're seeing them in this time. You're not even seeing them in this time. As fucked up as everything is going right now, you're not seeing them in this time. This is the time for them to be making their play. But are they? Ask yourself that. Why y'all only show up every 4 years? Why I never hear from you motherfuckers? They like the Olympics, nigga. They only come around every 4 years. I never really hear from them until it's time to vote. And siphon votes away. Which is what they did for the last, I want to say since 2000. I remember Ralph Nader with siphoning votes away from Al Gore, and much the way that Jill Stein has been doing for the last 2 elections. They only show up to sow chaos and they bounce. You ain't seen her since. So yeah, man. Don't ask me why black people vote Democratic anymore. Black people vote for political expediency. There is no loyalty to a Democratic Party. There is a party that at least pretends to listen to the concerns of the black people and the LGBTQ community and the Arab community and the brown community. There's a coalition over here. Over there on that other side, it's about whiteness and whiteness only. And they're continuously showing you that. Perfect example. Right now. Right fucking now. There was a story that a Trump nominee for the Office of Special Counsel says that the Martin Luther King Jr. holiday should be thrown to the depths of hell. We get this story from Politico. It says that Trump nominee says MLK Jr. holiday belongs in hell and that he has not a Nazi streak, according to text messages. He says MLK Jr. was the 1960s George Floyd, and his holiday should be ended and tossed into the 7th circle of hell where it belongs. Paul Ingrassia, President Donald Trump's embattled nominee to lead the Office of Special Counsel, told a group of fellow Republicans in a text chain that the Martin Luther King Jr. holiday should be tossed into the 7th circle of hell and that he has a Nazi streak. Ingrassia, who has a Senate confirmation hearing scheduled Thursday, he's since rescinded his own fucking nomination. He dropped out. Made the remarks in a chain with a half dozen Republican operatives and influencers. MLK was the 1960s George Floyd, and his holiday should be ended and tossed into the 7th circle of hell where it belongs. Someone said Jesus Christ in response. Using an Italian surf for black people, Ingrassia wrote a month earlier in the group chat seen by Politico that no Molugulian holidays from Kwanzaa to MLK Jr. Day to Black History Month to Juneteenth, then added every single one of them needs to be eviscerated. Let me go back. He says no Molugulian holidays from Kwanzaa to MLK Jr. Day to Black History Month to Juneteenth. Every single one needs to be eviscerated. Politico interviewed two people in the chat and granted them anonymity after they expressed concerns about personal and professional repercussions. One retained the messages and showed the text chain in its entirety to Politico, which independently verified that the number listed on the chain belongs to Ingracia. The person said he came forward because he wants the government to be staffed with experienced people who are taken seriously. The second person has since deleted the chain and didn't recall specifics about it, but did confirm that the discussions did take place. A lawyer for Ingracia, Andrew Polatic, initially suggested that some of the texts were intended to be poking fun at liberals, though he didn't confirm they were authentic. Looks like these texts could be manipulated or are being... Come on, man. Come on, man. Come on, man. Like, nigga.
Nigga, did you know that I can see you? Nigga, you right there. It's on your nose.
Come on, man. Come on, man. Even if the texts are authentic, they clearly read as self-deprecating and satirical humor, making fun of the fact that liberals outlandishly and routinely call MAGA supporters Nazis, he wrote in a statement. In reality, Mr. Ingracia has incredible support from the Jewish community because Jews know that Mr. Ingracia is the furthest thing from a Nazi. But he didn't say anything about how he had about his support amongst black folks. Here's the current... This is a dude who currently works for Trump. He's not the official over the office of special counsel, but it's also currently working for Trump. This is his attitude about black people. And you want to ask me and question me about why I consider voting for Republicans as a non-starter? Fuck you. It's not about staying on code. It's not about any political sort of fucking loyalty to the Democratic Party. These are the people populating the party of the opposition to me. What do I look like empowering these sons of bitches more? Why would I do that? Why would you do that? Why would you do that? Ask yourself that question. So when someone asks you, why y'all always vote for the Democrats say, hey, what are the Republicans offering you? Just ask them, what are the Republicans offering? And see what they tell you. Because if this is it, the nigga count me out. I don't want no parts. Fuck them niggas. Sincerely, from the bottom of my balls. Real talk. But yeah, man, I'm about to get on up out of here. I've been running my mouth for a little bit, and I got to go to work tomorrow. I got shit to do, you know what I mean? But of course, before we get on up out of here, I got to remind you guys how to get in touch with your man Spann over here at the Mr. Spann Official Podcast and let your voice be heard. Go ahead and hit up that hotline, area code 313-288-0485. That's area code 313-288-0485. Leave those voicemail messages. Those messages will get played here live on the show and responded to in kind. You can also email us here at thespanpodcast@gmail.com. That's thespanpodcast@gmail.com. Go ahead, leave me those emails. Follow your man's. Leave me those emails, and of course, I'll read those emails and reply to you here live on the show. Go ahead, follow your man Spann on Instagram and Threads. My name on both of those platforms is Mr._Spann. So go ahead, follow me there, chop it up with your man Spann throughout the week. Also, subscribe to our channel on YouTube. The Spann Report on YouTube. Go ahead, subscribe to the channel, like the videos, comment on the videos. We'll reply to some of those comments right here on the show. And we really do appreciate everybody who does that. Doesn't cost you a dime to do that. And, you know, it goes a long way towards helping us grow the YouTube channel, which again, we got over 3,000 subscribers now. Yeah. Which should be celebrated, man, because it was a long time coming. But also, leave us a 5-star review on iTunes and or Spotify. Those 5-star reviews are the ones that get right here live on the show. We really do appreciate everybody who does that. Doesn't cost you a dime, just a couple minutes of your time to let everybody know why you're rocking with your man Spann over here at the Mr. Spann Official Podcast and the Spann Report Podcast Network in its entirety. And also, man, go ahead to our store, man. We got a store that, cop yourself some merch. We got t-shirts, we got hats, we got hoodies. It's getting cold outside. I started rocking my hoodie at work today. It's about that time, man. Fall is setting in. So for those of you who would like to support us in monetarily, we want you to get something back tangible in return. So we really appreciate everybody who does that as well, man. But yeah, I am about to get on up out of here. I will talk to you guys again soon. But until next time, fam, peace.